Good morning to all. In today's class, we will discuss super and final keywords. These two are very, very important in Java. Okay? Super and the other keyword is final. First, we will complete super keyword. Okay, last class I explained super dot variable and super dot member. Dot member. Here we can use the super keyword using super dot member. This member can be either variable or method. So correct here it is member, here it is method. So here we can use the super keyword with super dot member. This member can be either variable or method. So last class we have discussed one program. In that I have used super dot variable and super dot method. When we use super dot variable is in case of instance variable hiding. So what is instance variable hiding? Last class I explained. If both superclass and subclass are having the same instance variable with the same name, then always subclass instance variable will hide the superclass instance variable. So it is called instance variable hiding. So in that case, how to access the super dot or superclass instance variable in subclass, or the other way is inside the subclass using the subclass object, how to access the superclass instance variable. Okay, so in case of instance variable hiding, to access the superclass instance variable, we use super dot variable inside the subclass. Okay, that is the concept of super dot variable. Next, when you take super dot method, okay, so we use super dot method in case of method overriding. So what is method overriding? Very, very important concept in Java or in inheritance. Okay, so if both superclass and subclass are having the same method with the same prototype, then subclass method will override the superclass method. In that case, to access the superclass method, we use super dot method inside the subclass. So already I explained a program with these two concepts, that is super dot variable and super dot method in the last class. So these two, I have completed these two concepts, that is super dot variable and super dot method. So first one is, so here we can use super keyword four ways. First one is super dot variable. Next, second is super dot method. Third one, super norg. Okay, this is super of norg. Fourth one is super of parameters. So I have completed till now super dot variable, super dot method, and also super of norg. So I have explained one program, that is constructor chaining. So in the constructor chaining concept, inside the constructor, okay, we have the first statement is by default super. This is added by the compiler inside each constructor, whether it is norg constructor or parameterized constructor or default constructor. In all these three types of constructors, always the first statement inside each constructor is super of this by default. Okay, already explained in constructors, inside each constructor, whether it is default constructor or user defined constructor, the first statement must be either super of norg or this of norg. But super of norg is by default available inside each constructor as the first statement. If you want to write, you can write explicitly also. But this must be the first statement inside each constructor. You can't write anywhere inside the constructor. If you want to write explicitly, write this as the first statement inside the constructor. Okay, or we can use this of NORG also. That must be also the first statement. Either super or this, but both are with NORG. If you won't write anything, the compiler will add this super of NORG as the first statement inside each constructor. If you want to write explicitly, you can write either super of NORG or this of NORG. I will explain this of NORG later. Now we will see super of NORG. Okay, so it is the default statement which is provided by the compiler in for each constructor, which will be the first statement. Okay, already explained this program constructor chaining. In that I have explained super of NORG. Okay, so till now I have explained super dot variable, super dot method, and super of NORG. So now I will explain the program on super of parameters. This is the fourth one. So we can use super keyword in 4 ways. First one is super dot variable, second is super dot method, next super of NORG, and fourth one is super of parameters. These are the 4 ways where we can use super keyword in any Java program. Okay, now we will see the program on super of parameters. Okay, so only in inheritance we can use super keyword. Without inheritance, there is no use of super keyword, because in inheritance always we will take minimum number of classes 2. One is superclass and another one is subclass. Okay, so to access the superclass members inside the subclass, we use super keyword. Remember this point. We have 2 classes in inheritance. One is superclass and another one is subclass. So inside the subclass, to access the superclass members, we use super keyword. So that is the purpose of super keyword. Super means it is superclass. So to access the members of superclass inside the subclass, we use super keyword. This is very important for exam point of view also. Explain super keyword with examples means you can write 3 programs. In one program we can write super dot variable and super dot method, and program 2 is constructor chaining. This is the best example for super of NORG, and third program is super of parameters. Okay, we can pass parameters to this super. Okay, now I will explain this concept. Okay, now, so here we will read this one. Inside each constructor, whether it is user defined or compiler generated constructor, the first statement must be super by default. You remember this point, that is whether it is compiler generated constructor, that is default constructor. Inside the default constructor also, the first statement must be super. Or inside the user defined NORG constructor or user defined parameterized constructor also, the first statement must be super of NORG. Okay, this is by default, means compiler will add if you won't write. If you write also, correct explicitly, no problem. Okay, so this is the concept on super. Next I will explain a program on super of parameters. Okay, now we will write program on super of parameters. How we send parameters or how we use parameters inside this super. Okay, now first I will explain the structure. Here I am taking 2 classes. Box is the super class and box weight is the subclass. Okay, means we are taking inheritance. Only in inheritance we use the keyword super. Okay, that's why 2 classes must. So box is super class in this program and box weight is subclass. First in inheritance always whenever you want to write the programs on inheritance, always first define the structure. Once you define the structure like this, okay, then it is very easy to write the inheritance program. Okay, in the structure, first write superclass and what is your superclass. Inside the superclass, what are the members we are using or we are writing. Okay, these are the members of the superclass. Okay, next take one more class, subclass, that is box weight. Okay, this is one word only. This is one word, no space. Okay, space is not allowed. So box weight is one word. And naming convention is here two words means first word, first letter must be capital letter, and the second word, first letter must also be capital letter. You know the naming conventions are naming conventions for classes, interfaces, methods, and packages. Okay, as per the naming conventions only, write the class names. Here box is a single word, that's why the first letter of this first word must be capital letter. Okay, and the subsequent words first letters must also be capital. So this is the name of the class, this is also name of the class. Okay, we use the naming convention. Next, this is superclass, this is subclass. Next, first I will write the superclass members, then I will write the subclass members. Okay, now so members means, so members of a class means variables and methods, that is state part and behavior part. So here I am using three instance variables, they are width, depth and length. Okay, next this is one constructor. You know what is the, here you have to write braces. So here what is the purpose of this constructor is to initialize these three instance variables. That's why inside the box constructor I am taking three parameters, because in this class we have three instance variables. So number of parameters in the parameterized constructor is same as the number of the instance variables generally. Okay, next I am using one more method, here put parenthesis. This method is volume method. So inside the box class I am using three instance variables, one parameterized constructor, this is user defined parameterized constructor, and one volume method. So these are the members of box class, that is superclass. Next, if you take the subclass, now the own members of the subclass are weight is one instance variable and box weight is the constructor. Why it is constructor means the name of the constructor must be same as the name of the class and no return type. That's why box weight constructor, here it is a parameterized constructor and it is also user defined, means we are writing this constructor on our own. Next, after that, how many parameters should I take inside the box weight? So these two are the own members of box weight class. They are one instance variable and one constructor. Already explained in the last class, constructors of the superclass are not inherited to its subclass. Okay, only variables and methods of the superclass are inherited to its subclass. But constructors of the superclass are not inherited to its subclass. You remember this point. Next, after that, we will see how many members are there for box weight class or in box weight class. Okay, these are the own members. In addition to the own members, box weight can inherit the members of its superclass. So, what are the members which are inherited to box weight class from box class? Okay, constructors are not inherited, you remember. Now this is not inherited. And these three instance variables are inherited and the volume method is also inherited. If you count the number of instance variables inside box weight, these three variables are inherited. In addition to these three instance variables, we have one more variable inside box weight. That's why box weight class consists of 4 instance variables. They are width, depth, length and weight. So to initialize the 4 instance variables of box weight class, we use box weight constructor. So how many parameters it is taking? 4 parameters. Why 4 parameters means the number of instance variables in box weight class is 4. That's why I will take 4 parameters inside box weight constructor. Okay, you see, remember this point. The main purpose of constructor is to initialize the instance variables of that class. That's why always use the constructor for initialization purpose only. Even though it is behaving like method only, you can write any functionality, but always try to use the constructor for initialization of the instance variables. That is the main purpose of any constructor. Okay, that's why here inside this constructor I want to initialize the 4 instance variables of this class. What are the 4 instance variables? Weight, width, depth and length. So to initialize these 4 instance variables of box weight class, I will write the box weight constructor. Okay, inside the subclass, that is inside box weight constructor, that is inside subclass constructor, the first statement I am writing super of parameterized. See, here we are discussing the program on super of parameters. Where we are writing super of parameters is inside the subclass constructor. I am writing super of parameterized or super of parameters, which is the first statement. This statement we should write as the first statement only. If you write anywhere, you will get compiler error. Okay, compiler will check only for syntaxes. Okay, syntactically, if you write inside the constructor, if you write anywhere, then it is a compiler error. So always we should write the super of norg or super of parameters only inside the constructor, which must be first statement. Okay. So where we are using super of parameters is inside the subclass constructor. We are invoking the superclass constructor. From this, the flow goes to the superclass matching constructor. This is the superclass matching constructor. You understand the concept. After that, understanding the program is very, very easy. Now, understand where we are using super of parameters. Okay, we are writing the super of parameters as the first statement inside the subclass constructor. This is, we know this is subclass constructor. Inside the subclass constructor, we are using super of parameters as the first statement. So from this, the control goes to the superclass matching constructor. So here we have 3 parameters. That's why it will go to this matching. That is, this is the matching constructor of the superclass. This constructor will be invoked. Okay, that is the concept on super of parameters. Okay, based on this structure, we will write the program. Now understanding the program is very, very easy. Okay. Now I will write 2 classes. One is box superclass and another one is box weight, that is subclass. Inside the box weight, why the name is inside the box weight, I am taking one more variable weight in addition to the 3 instance variables of box class. That's why the name is box weight. It means we are adding weight variable to box weight class. Now this program is very, very easy. Class box means this is the super class. Okay, inside already explained, I have taken 3 instance variables. Why these are called instance variables is they are declared inside the class and outside the method or block or constructor. If you see the position of these variables, they are placed or they are positioned inside the class and outside the method or constructor or block. So that's why these variables are instance variables. And one more point is, and they are also not declared with static keyword. That's why these 3 variables are called instance variables based on the position and also not declared with static keyword. First identify instance variables. These 3 are very, very important. After that I am taking constructor. You know how to write the constructor, already explained. So programs on constructors. So you know this is parameterized constructor with the same 3 variables with the same data types. If you take the instance variable names and parameter names same, then use this keyword. That's why this dot length is equal to length, this dot width is this dot depth. Okay, already you know how to write parameterized constructor to initialize the instance variables. That's it. Okay. Next I am writing one more method, that is volume. See, volume is a method because it has return type. This is constructor because it has no return type. Method name may or may not be same as the class name. If you take here box, it is also correct. But how to distinguish whether it is constructor or method is based on the return type. Here it is void, means it must be a return type. Here there is no return type, and the name of the constructor must be same as the name of the class. That's why it is a constructor, it is a method. Like that, identify whether it is a constructor or method. These two, constructor plays very important role in Java. Constructors are used to initialize the instance variables of the class. Okay, now what is the purpose of this method is, using these three variables, I am finding the volume. So volume of the box, you know the formula is length into width into depth. That's why inside the volume method, I am finding the volume of the box using the formula length into width into depth. After that, this will be printed as it is. This is called concatenation operator. This is a string because we have put this inside the double quotes. That's why it is a string, and this is a numerical value. String plus numerical value. Concatenation of a string and numerical value is a string. Always system.out.println, the argument must be a string. Okay, finally it is a string. Why? Because string plus numerical value. So a concatenation of plus is a concatenation operator. Concatenation of string and integer or floating is a string. That's why finally it is a string, and which is printed, which is displayed as output on the console. Okay, this is the volume method. Okay, once you understand the box class, we will go to box weight class. So this is the box class, which is a super class. Inside the three instance variables and one parameterized constructor with three parameters, and one volume method, which is calculating the volume of the box. That's it. Okay, this is box class. Next, we will take box weight class. So box weight is a subclass because box weight extends box. So class box weight extends box means box is superclass, box weight is subclass. So inside the box weight class, I am taking one more instance variable, that is weight. That's why here I have written int weight. This is an instance variable because it is declared inside the class and outside the constructor or method or block. That's why, and also not declared with static keyword. That's why weight is an instance variable. Now here box weight class consists of 4 instance variables and one method, that is volume method. Because the instance variables of this superclass are inherited to its subclass. That's why inside the box class we have these 3 variables and also one variable, that is weight. That's why box weight class consists of 4 instance variables, and this constructor is not inherited and this volume method is inherited. So if you see this box weight class, it consists of 4 instance variables and one constructor and one method, that is volume method. Because volume method of the box class is inherited to box weight class. Okay. Next I will explain this constructor. Okay. What is this constructor? This is subclass constructor. Because the name of the class is box weight and the constructor name also box weight and no return type. So how many parameters should I take here is 4. Because to initialize the 4 instance variables of the box weight class, I need to take box weight constructor with 4 parameters. What are the 4 parameters? I already explained in the what are the 3 instance variables which are inherited from its superclass: length, width and depth. Length, width and depth. See here, int length. Length, if you want to take the same name, you can take, but here I have taken different name. Length is for L or L is for length. So int L, this is W is for width and this is for depth, and what is the last one? Weight. Okay, length, width, depth and weight. I am using for these parameters different names. okay, which are not same as the instance variable names. This is also correct. Next, after that, this is important. Now we are discussing super of parameters. So what are the parameters here? L, W, and D. Okay, here close the bracket or parenthesis. And now here super of, understand this statement, super of L, W, D. Okay, this is the first statement inside the box weight constructor. So the purpose of this statement is, from this statement it will go to the superclass matching constructor. What is the superclass matching constructor with 3 parameters? This is the matching constructor. Super of these 3 values we are sending. That is super of L, W, D means from this statement it will go to the superclass constructor. That is this is the matching constructor for that statement, and this is executed. Okay. Next, after that, this is the first statement. After that, what is the next statement? Here one more variable is there, no, weight. That is weight is equal to WT, means this is assigned to this weight. So if you write super of L, W, D, okay, no need to write these 3 statements. Suppose if you don't want to write super of L, W, D, then you have to write length is equal to L, width is equal to W, depth is equal to D. So instead of writing these 3 statements, what I am writing is, I am writing super of L, W, D to invoke the superclass constructor, because constructor of the superclass is not inherited to its subclass. How I am invoking the superclass constructor inside the subclass constructor is by writing super of L, W, D. So this is super of parameters. To invoke the superclass constructor from subclass constructor, we use super of L, W, D. Okay. Next, after that, remaining part is you can understand on your own. So test class, inside that I have written main method. Inside that I have created 2 objects for subclass. See, already explained. Always in inheritance, create objects only for subclass. No need of creating the objects for superclass. Because if you create objects for superclass, with that we can access only superclass members. But if you create the objects for subclass, with the subclass reference variables, we can access both superclass and subclass members. So that is the advantage of inheritance. That's why here I have created 2 objects for subclass. I can create any number of objects for subclass. Here I have created two objects for subclasses with different values. Okay, means here what I am doing in this program is, I am calculating the volume of 2 different boxes. First one is creating 1 box with these values, and the second one is creating 1 more box with these values. Now here I am calculating the volume for 2 different boxes. That is the program. Okay. Now how I will calculate the volume of 2 different boxes is using these objects. Now I will explain this one. Box weight B1 is equal to new box weight of these. Already explained, this is called constructor. Whenever this statement is executed by JVM, from this the control goes to the matching constructor of box weight class. So this is the matching constructor of box weight class. Here the values I am sending 10, 20, 30, 40 to these parameters. So 10 is stored in L, 20, 30 and 40. Now I am assigning values to these 4 variables L, W, D and WT. Again separate memory will be created for these 4 variables and those values are assigned. L is holding 10, 20, W 20, D 30 and WT 40. So with these 4 values, now I will go to this part, that is constructor part. Inside this constructor I have super of L, W, D. What is L? 10. W is 20, D is 30. So here L is 10, W is 20, D is 30. So super of 10, 20, 30. So super of 10, 20, 30 means from this the control goes to the box weight box class and it will execute the matching constructor. So this is the matching constructor. Here length is holding 10, means int length is equal to L. What is the meaning of this? This 10 now, here we are sending 10, 20, 30. With these three values, I am invoking the superclass constructor. That is box class matching constructor is invoked. So this is the box class superclass matching constructor. Here length is assigned 10 and width is 20 and depth is 30 because here these three values, the three values for LWD are 10, 20 and 30. And now length is 10, width is 20 and depth is 30. After that, these three instance variables are assigned with 10, 20 and 30. Now length is 10, width is 20, depth is 30. You remember these three values. Because box weight class consists of 4 instance variables, they are length, width and depth. So those variables are initialized with this statement, that is super of 10, 20, 30. So this is completed. After that, what is the fourth variable inside box weight class? Weight. So weight is equal to WT. That is already I have sent the value, that is 40 to this WT. Means WT holds 20. That 20 is assigned to weight. So with this box weight, okay, with this box weight constructor, I have assigned the values for length, width and depth, which are 10, 20, 30 and weight is 40. Now here, after execution of this box weight constructor, again it comes back to the same statement. Means what is there here? Now this statement is executed completely. Now inside the memory, see, this is the memory part. Inside the memory, box weight class object is created and the address of this box weight is 100 assigned to B1. And the 4 instance variables are these length, width, height and depth, which are assigned 10, 20, 30, 40. So this is the memory part after execution of this first object creation. Similarly, if you take the second object, again the same constructor is invoked with the same with these values, and inside the memory one more object is created for box weight class. Let us take the address is 200 and 200 is assigned to B2. Now inside this we have 4 variables, instance variables. Already explained, only instance variables of the state part will be stored inside each object. Okay, that's why the values of these 4 instance variables are 1, 2, 3, 4. This is second object for box weight class. This is first object for box weight class. So these 2 statements are completed. After that, on the first object, I am invoking volume method, because already explained volume method of the super class, that is box class, is inherited to its subclass. That's why we assume that volume method is a part of this box weight class. Okay. Now with that volume method, I am calculating the volume of the first box using B1 dot volume. Means on the first object, volume method is invoked. Inside the volume method, I am calculating volume is length into width into depth. What is the output after execution of the volume method is volume is 10 into 20 into 30, which is nothing but 6,000. After that, what I am doing next, B2 dot volume. Okay, so B1 dot volume is 6,000 with these 3 values. Next, on the second object, again I am invoking the volume method to find the volume of the second box, that is B2 dot volume. Again same volume method is invoked on the second object but with different values. That's why again the volume method is calculating length into width into depth, that is 1 into 2 into 3, that is volume is 6. So up to this is completed. Next, after that we are not using this weight variable inside the volume method now. That's why I want to print this weight variable using this reference variable. You know how to access the members of the object using reference variable, using dot operator. That's why I want to print this weight variable separately, because it is not there in the volume method. Okay, that's why system.out.println B1.weight I am printing, that is 40 is printed. Similarly, in the second object also weight is there. No, how do we print this weight is using this reference variable. That's why B2.weight means you will get 4. So if this super is completed, means super of parameters. So there are 4 ways to use the super. First one is super dot member. not member. Now, okay, we can take three ways. First one is super dot member. That can be either super dot method or super dot variable. Second one is super of no arg. Third one is super of parameters. So this program is on super of parameters. So with this super keyword, okay, we have completed super keyword and how to use the super keyword also. We know we can write now three programs. First program is using super dot variable and super dot method, and second program is on super of no arg, which is nothing but constructor chaining, and third is super of parameters, that is inside the subclass constructor we can invoke super class constructor using super of parameters. Okay, with this we have completed super keyword. What is the next keyword? Final. This is also very, very important. Explain final keyword in Java with examples. Okay, now we will complete final keyword. It is easy only. Now there are three ways to use final keyword. So what are the three ways? So final. So it can be final variables or final methods or final classes. So these are the three ways we can use final keyword. What are the three ways? Final variables, final methods, and final classes. Okay, I will explain these three. Okay, these three are very, very important. Now coming to final variables. So regarding final variables, what are the points to remember is final variables cannot be modified. Look, I will explain with example program. Now try to understand the concept. So final variables cannot be modified. Means they are treated as constants. Variable, what is the definition of or definitions of variables, variable and constant? Variable means the value may vary, but constant means once you assign the value, that is fixed throughout the program. Okay, that is the difference between variable and constant. So once you declare the variable as final, it is treated as constant. Okay, so final variables are treated as constants. What is the meaning of that one is final variables cannot be modified. Once you assign the value for that final variable throughout the program, okay, we can't change that value. We have to use the same value only. Means which is nothing but like constant. Okay, you remember these 2 points. Final variables cannot be modified and they are treated as constants. Next, what about final methods? So coming to final methods cannot be overridden. Already explained method overriding. What is method overriding? If both superclass and subclass are having the same method with the same prototype, then subclass method will override the superclass method. Okay, or superclass method is overridden by the subclass method. But sometimes, okay, we don't want method overriding. Then in that case, what we have to do is we have to declare the superclass method as final. In that case, the subclass can't use that method. Okay, means subclass method cannot override. Okay, to prevent overriding or to prevent method overriding, we can use final. Okay, once you declare the superclass method as final, so in the subclass you can't use the same method. Means final methods of the superclass cannot be used in the subclasses. That's why final methods cannot be overridden. Means the final methods of the superclass can't be overridden in its subclasses. Means to prevent overriding, we use final methods in superclass. Okay, I will show you example. Next, final classes. Final classes cannot be subclassed. Means to prevent inheritance, we use final classes. Once you declare the class as final, we can't write subclasses for that class. Means we can't get inheritance now. That's why to prevent inheritance, we use final classes. So final classes cannot be subclassed. Means can't apply inheritance. Means once you declare the class as final, okay, we can't write subclasses for that final class. That is the concept of final class. So I can explain final in three ways: final variables, final methods, and final classes. Again, I will repeat: final variables cannot be modified, means they are treated as constants. Next, final methods of the superclass cannot be overridden in its subclasses. Next, final classes cannot be subclassed. The advantage of using final methods is to prevent overriding, and the advantage of using final classes is to prevent inheritance. Okay, this is the hierarchical structure for final. Okay, after that I will show you the examples on these three. Okay, first we will see final classes. What is the concept for final classes? Final classes cannot be subclassed. Means once you declare the class as final, it cannot be subclassed. Okay, means inheritance is not possible for final classes. Okay, I will write. Now, class box. Already I have taken the previous class is box now. So I will take that class box as final. Means box class is declared with the final keyword. Final is a keyword, remember. Static is a keyword, final is a keyword. Okay. Now I am declaring the box class as final. Means we can't write subclasses for this box class. Okay. So this is box class. Next, this is box class. After that, what I am writing is class box weight extends box. Is it possible or not possible? That is the question here. First, it will check whether box class is declared with final keyword or not. If box class is not declared with final keyword, then it is 100% correct. Because in the previous program we have written no, but in those programs this box class is not declared with the final keyword. But here what I am doing is I am declaring the box class as final, means this is the final class. Means we can't write subclass for it. That's why here I am trying to write the subclass for the final class box. That's why if you execute this program, you will get compiler error. Because syntax error, compiler will check only syntaxes. Okay. Next, this is final classes. This is about final classes. After that, I will explain final methods. So we will see final methods. What is the concept of final methods? So final methods cannot be overridden. Means final methods of the superclass cannot be overridden in its subclasses. Now I will take one superclass. I will declare one method as final. That method cannot be overridden in the subclass. Okay, you remember this point. Now I will write. Here I have taken animal class, which is the superclass. So inside the superclass animal, I am writing here one method, that is eat. Here I have written one method eat, but I declared this method eat as final. Okay, this is what animal eat method. So here in animal class there is only one method, that is eat method, and which is a final method. So final method of the superclass cannot be overridden in its subclass. You remember this point. Now I will write one subclass for animal class. Class dog animal extends class dog extends animal. So inside this subclass, again I am trying to write the same method eat. So if you see this one, void eat. See, eat is not taking any parameters here. Here also no parameters, and return type is void. Return type is void, means I am writing the same method with the same prototype. Prototype is nothing but parameters and return type. So the same parameters and same number of parameters and same type, same order, and return type must be same. See here, everything is matched. Okay. Now, but here what is the concept? Here the eat method of the superclass is declared as final. Means final methods of the superclass cannot be overridden in its subclass. But here we are using the same method with the same prototype. That's why if you execute this program in the lab, you will get compiler error. Okay. How to overcome this one? If you don't write this final keyword for this method, then this is correct only. Okay, by creating subclass object dog d1 is equal to new dog, and if you write d1 dot eat, then dog's eat method will be executed. Means dog's eat method will override the animal's each method. This is nothing but method overriding. But here the each method of the superclass is declared as final. That's why final methods cannot be inherited, cannot be overridden. That's why here we can't write this one. That's why if you execute this program, it is compiler error. Okay. Next, third one is final variables. So final variables cannot be modified. Okay. Now here I want to explain one point here. Why this method overriding? What is the advantage of method overriding? So advantage is, suppose in animal class we are writing the generalized methods which are useful for all the subclasses. In the superclass always we will write the generalized methods which are useful for all its subclasses. If you write the generalized methods in animal, so those methods are used by the subclasses of that class, right? So here if you won't write final, void it. Here I am not writing, let us take, I am not writing each method. Means this is inherited to this class. Okay? Okay, that is there in inheritance. But sometimes dog wants to write the same method with different functionality. Then in that case, dog class will use method overriding concept. If the subclass wants to write the same method in a different way or in its own way, then in that case, the class will use the same method name, same prototype, but functionality is different. It will write in its own way inside void each method. Okay, that is called method overriding. If the subclass wants to take the superclass method with the same functionality as it is, then it will not write its own method. But sometimes the class or subclass wants to write the same each method with its own functionality. Then in that case, it can write its own method. Okay, if it writes its own method, okay, which is same as the same method of the superclass, it is called method overriding. In that case, subclass method will override the superclass method. Or if it wants to use all the superclass methods, no problem. In that case, there is no concept of method overriding. But the class or subclass sometimes doesn't want to take the each method of its superclass. It wants to define the functionality of the same each method in its own way. Then the class can define the same method of the superclass in its own way. If it defines the same method in its own way, then it is called method overriding. In this case, the method of the superclass will override the method of the subclass. Okay, next, this is the one point. Okay, where we get this method overriding is if subclass method is not satisfied with the functionality of the superclass method, then it will take the method name same, but it will define that method with its own functionality. Okay, sometimes it is correct only, no? Why always subclass will take all the methods of superclass as it is? Sometimes it may define in its own way. In that case, it will take only method with the same prototype, but it will define the functionality. Okay, it can define the different functionality. Then in that case, it will use the same method and it will write its own functionality. Okay, now suppose animal class, sometimes animal class doesn't want to give a chance to its, or the superclass doesn't want to give a chance to its subclass to define the method in its own way. In that class, what the superclass, in that case, what the superclass will do is, superclass will declare that method as final. Means, in that case, subclass cannot define this method in its own way. So that's why sometimes animal class declares some methods with final keyword. In that case, it is not giving the chance to its subclass to redefine that method. So the subclass has to use the same method. Okay, that is the concept of this final keyword. If you declare the superclass method as final, we can't write the same method with different functionality in its subclass. Means final methods of the superclass we can't override. Inherited correct only. This method of the method of this final method of the superclass is inherited to its subclass, but we can't redefine that method. That is the concept of final method. See, here what is the concept? Final methods cannot be overridden, but are inherited. Final methods of the superclass are inherited to its subclass. That is correct only. But the subclass cannot redefine that method once the superclass declare that method as final. Okay, redefining of that method is not possible in the subclass. Means the subclass method cannot override this method. Means final. So if animal class doesn't want to give a chance to its subclass to redefine the method, then it will declare that method as final. In that class, it cannot write this one. Means what? We are preventing the method overriding. Okay, last one is, this is easy only, final variables. Okay, in inheritance, okay, only we use final variables in inheritance only. So not inheritance. Here this final variables without inheritance also we can use. But final classes and final methods with respect to inheritance only we have to explain. Final classes cannot be subclassed and final methods cannot be overridden. So to explain the concepts final classes and final methods, inheritance is must. But for explaining final variables, inheritance is not required. With one class I can explain. Okay, inheritance is not required. That's why I will take only one class test. Here I will declare the instance variables and the static variables. See why it is static variable means here the variable is declared inside the class and outside the method or constructor or block, and the variable is also declared with static. That's why in this class A is called instance variable and B is called static variable. Okay, static variables I will explain in depth later. Now understand the difference between instance variable and static variable. Both are placed in the same position, but the difference is here it is not declared with the static keyword, here it is declared with the static keyword. That's why A is instance variable and B is static variable, and both in these two variables are declared with the final keyword. Okay, now A and B are called final variables. What is the concept for final variables is final variables cannot be modified. Okay, now we will see, we will modify and we will see what will happen. Okay, so final variables. So in this class A and B are called final variables because these two variables are declared with the keyword final, and the final variables must be given values. We have to assign values for the final variables, otherwise compiler error. Because final variables are treated as constants. That's why I have assigned with 10A and B is assigned with 20. This is must, otherwise compiler error. Final variables must be given or must be assigned values at the time of declaring that variable. Okay, that's why final A is equal to 10, here final B is equal to 20. This is must. After that we will see. So after that I will take the main method inside the test class, and I have taken one more final variable. Here I am trying to explain three types we can write final variables. Instance variable can be declared as final. Next, static variable can be declared as final, and local variable can also be declared as final. You know, inside the main method, if you write any variable, that variable is called local variable. Why? Because the scope of this variable is only inside this main method. That's why C is a local variable. Here I am declaring instance variable, static variable and local variable. I am declaring all these three variables with final keyword. Means final, for instance variable is final, static variable is final, local variable is final. Now I will explain the remaining part of the program. Now Here to access the members of this class, I have to create object for this class. By creating object for test class only, I can access the members of the test class. And where do I create the object for test class is inside the main method. The reason is there why we are creating object for any class inside the main method. Reason is there. I will explain later. Okay, when I explain static keyword, I will explain the reason why we are creating objects for any class inside the main method only. Okay. Now test T1 is equal to new test. After that, I am accessing the members of the test class with this T1. So T1 dot A, T1 dot B, T1 dot C. So what are the values? 10, 20 and 30. Okay. So here you will get the output as 10, 20, 30. Next after that, okay, A is 20, B is A is 10, B is 20, C is 30. So I am printing the values of A and B, A, B, C using this statement. Up to this, okay. After that, what I am trying to do is I want to modify the variable or value for A, B, C. And then what I will do? How I will modify? Because all these three variables are inside the object. See, test T1 is equal to new test means one object is created. Okay, one object is created for test class. Inside the object, I have three instance variables A, B, C, and 10, 20, 30 are stored. Okay. Now, how do I access those three variables? T1 dot A, because the address of this object is assigned to this T1 now. So T1 dot A is equal to T1 dot A plus 10. Okay, T1 dot A is equal to T1 dot A plus 10 means I am modifying this value 10 with 10 plus 10 is 20. Next, T1 dot B is equal to T1 dot B plus 20, here 40. T1 dot C is equal to T1 dot C plus 30. Here I am modifying. Now I am trying to modify all these three values. Okay. So here, is it possible or not possible? It is not possible. Why? Because all the three variables A, B, C are declared with the final keyword. Final variables cannot be modified. Throughout the program, we have to use 10, 20 and 30 only. If you are trying to modify the final variables, you will get compiler error. Okay. Here no need to take T1.C because it is a local variable. No? C is a local variable. That's why here write directly C. Don't write T1.C. So here C means here also C is equal to C plus 30 because local variables are not stored inside the object. Only instance variables are stored inside the object. That's why inside the test object write only A and B. Okay, local variables are stored inside the stack and objects are stored inside the heap memory. That's why don't write T1.C, write only C. Okay. After that, write T1.A is equal to T1.A plus 10 because these are stored inside the object A and B. With T1 only, we can access the variables A and B. But C is a local variable, directly we can access. Inside the object C is not stored. Don't write T1.C, write only C. Here also correct this statement, that is C is equal to C plus 30. Now with these three statements, we are trying to modify the final variables. That's why compiler error. How to overcome this compiler error means don't write these three statements. Then up to this correct. T1.A, T1.B, C. Then the output is 10, 20, 30. That's it. That is the concept of final variables. So final, that's why output is what if you execute as it is, compiler error. So final variables cannot be modified and the final variable can be instance variable or static variable or local variable. But local variables are stored inside the stack memory. That's why inside the object C is not stored. Inside the object only instance variables of that class are stored. Actually, static variable is also not stored. If you take the concept, so only instance variable of the state part is stored. That's why only A is stored. Okay, and B is stored in the separate memory, that is method area. But static variable can be accessed directly or with T1. This is also correct. Okay, I will explain static variables and static methods later. Now try to understand static variables can be accessed even though they are stored inside the method area. they can be accessed with reference variable also, or directly also correct. So here I can write T1 dot B or B also correct. You execute this program. This is it. Don't write T1 dot C here, only C. So how do we write T1 dot A? Here T1 dot B, or the other option is only B, or here only C. Okay. After that, here these two statements are correct only, but only here C is equal to C plus 30, because static variables can be accessed with reference variables or directly also. All right. Okay. So with this, final keyword concept is completed. So how many ways we can use final keyword is with variables, with methods, and with classes. So final variables cannot be modified, final methods cannot be overridden, finite classes cannot be subclassed. So with this, we have completed both super keyword and final keyword. These two are very, very important for exam point of view.